get started, we're going to have this go prayer. Thanks, Father. Father, let's be here so we can pass the prayer on to you. God, our Heavenly Father, the source of all wisdom, we ask your blessing upon our Trinity School. Let there be light in this place, light to the mind, light to the heart, and light to the will, that we may grow in knowledge, love, and service of you and each other, now and forever. Amen. Tonight, we have a guest speaker, and it's an evening coffee, which is slightly different. You've joined us for our coffees in the past than the morning ones. But we would just like to remind everyone that it's still a coffee, and it's a forum. This is a forum that we have for parents to share their experiences, and we want you guys to share. If you have any questions, they're more than welcome at the end of the presentation. But just keep in mind that we want to be respectful of all of the kids and teachers, and we don't want to use any names when you ask your questions and all of that. And just so that our speaker gets an idea of who we are, I'd like to know how many middle school parents do we have? And high school? Both? And how many have graduated? Kids that have graduated? Has anyone never been here before to a coffee? Oh, great. Lots of you people. Welcome. I hope that you really enjoy it and that you come back. Our next coffee is in the morning, March 13th. It's a Thursday. Our coffees are usually on a Thursday. And the morning coffee is at 8 in this room over here. And in March, we will be speaking about parties and proms. And it'll be an open forum where parents can discuss and give their information, their input, ask each other questions. So now I would like to introduce our speaker. He is a leading business futurist, digital marketing strategist, best-selling author, and the CEO of Gilead Sanders, Inc., which is a leading futurist consulting firm. He has more than 20 years of experience working as a consultant, helping companies, organizations, and individuals take the quantum leap into the 21st century global marketplace. And he's here today to help guide us in what we need to do with our kids and social media and all of the things that our kids get into that we don't understand. So please help me to welcome Marvin Najib.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me apologize for the tardiness. I came all the way from Coconut Creek, and I thought, for some strange reason, that Palmer Trinity was like downtown Fort Lauderdale. So I didn't realize the traffic was going to be this horrendous. So I apologize. I'm usually very, very early when I speak, so my apologies. So I have to make it up to you guys and be absolutely entertaining. Right? So I'm going to talk about, a topic that, I've been asked to talk about this all the time. I don't know how many of you in here know Becky Hagar. Becky is the one who contacted me about, coming here to talk to you. And the reason that Becky contacted me is because about 6 years ago, Becky saw me do the same kind of presentation for an organization that was called Informed Families. And I did the presentation about Facebook, about Twitter, and what the kids were getting themselves into. By then, MySpace was getting blasé, kind of stuff. And then, the kind of stuff that I was talking about, parents were like, oh my God, are you kidding? My kid is doing this. And that was before all of us, as parents, started flooding Facebook, right? And then, so when Becky called me and said, Marvin, we'd love for you to come down to Palmer Trinity. We'd love for you to come here and talk to us a little bit about, social media and what the kids are getting involved in. I said, sure, no problem. And even though I am in the field myself, I deal with technology, I talk to companies and organizations all the time about platforms and integration and whatnot, I hadn't looked really into the evolution of social media when it came to kids. So I started doing some research, obviously, as I always do before I talk, and I discovered that Facebook, Twitter, and all the stuff that I did 6 years ago now are blasé. Our kids have left, the building. They moved on to other things. And, half of it myself, I was saying, I was quoting to the media when they were asking me about this talk, and I was saying, half of the stuff that these kids are moving into, the parents don't know about it. And I'm glad to tell you tonight that even some of them, I didn't even know about it. So the research really helped me open my eyes to what's going on out there. And from what I did 6 years ago to what I did now, I realized that a couple of things. Number one, our kids and our children's children are moving into a digital world. That's a fact, right? So for you guys and myself, we're what we call the transition generation, right? We're just learning how to use the cell phone, learning how to use the PC. We're kind of fumbling our way around. These kids today, they're coming out of the womb holding an iPad. Right? And they know how to use this stuff. My 3-year-old, my 4-year-old the other day, for Christmas, I got my father-in-law something called a Roku, right? And then, I was kind of trying to fumble around it and whatever. I went upstairs, came back, and my 4-year-old had figured out how to work the Roku and was watching one episode after another. I'm like, who taught you that? Your grandfather? I said, no, I figured it out. He's 4 years old. So these kids know the system, they know it better than we do. But what I realized doing the research as well is that we as parents, based on what I found, and I'm going to share with you tonight, is we cannot abdicate that role. We cannot say, I don't understand technology, these kids are smarter than me, all I know is how to turn on the cell phone. We cannot do that. Because there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't know that are lurking, and we need to understand what that means. So tonight, I want to spend a couple of minutes just sharing that stuff with you and hopefully having you ask me questions. And let's come up with what I call the first line of defense. Parents, teachers, concerned adults that we care about forming a circle in the community around our kids so that we understand, A, what they're doing, and B, so that we can counteract any nefarious things that are going on now, right? So, before I get started, I'm going to share with you this little video, right? So it's not an actual video of anything, but I think it's a video that's fair enough to kind of show you some of the things that, we don't think about as parents when we're talking to our kids about social media. So, yeah, we can dim the lights a little bit.
All right.
So, where am I? Cancel for me, and then just click on the lollipop. You see. Are you good? But that's fine. Well, okay, I know why. And you'll see in a minute why you need Facebook. So when our kids, go onto Facebook or Twitter, so when these kids go on Facebook, Twitter, and all these other social media, sometimes they put on, their information without thinking any further about it, right? So I like this little video because it's, it really kind of showcases to us some of the dangers that are out there that we don't even think about. So take a look at this. Use my own Facebook site. It's not scary, don't worry. It's got my information. Alright. Looking at my Facebook page. doesn't like my pictures. He's decided that he doesn't like me, obviously. More importantly, now he can geotag me, right? This guy looks funny to me. So, that's it. Thank you. I know, this was a little bit disturbing when somebody sent me this video. Scared the heebie-jeebies out of me. Yeah, somebody sent that to me. It actually was a video that somebody did, to connect people to Facebook, just to kind of give you a sense of some of the things that we don't think about when we're putting so much personal information out there on social media, right? So we're out there, we're sharing pictures, we're sharing all that stuff. For us as adults, even as adults, we need to be careful about that. But when our kids are doing it and they don't understand the ramifications that is, we need to be thinking about who are they exposing themselves to, right? So basically, we've moved from 6, 7 years ago, from Facebook to Twitter, to where when we were children, right, our parents, or when our kids were much younger, before this social media explosion, we used to be able to monitor what our kids were saying, right? Whether they were on the telephone, they were in the schoolyard, they were busy talking to their friends, in their rooms if there was a slumber party. We could basically have a "can you hear me now" moment, right? We understood, we kind of figured out what was going on with the kids more or less, right? But now, today, we're sort of playing a cat and mouse game with our kids, right? And they know that we don't know a lot about social media, about the technology, so they tend to congregate to these places, they're talking to their friends, they're creating social networks, and then they're playing a cat and mouse game with us sometimes, right? So mom knows that I have a Facebook, but she doesn't know that perhaps that, I have a Tumblr account. Or maybe I changed my name on Tumblr, or that I put some videos on YouTube, but changed using a username that, he or she does not know. So we're constantly trying to figure out where our kids are and what are they doing online, right? So it's important for us to really start understanding what their conversations are as opposed to what are. We're busy thinking, should we really be thinking to our kids about social media? Is that really necessary? We talk to them about all the other stuff, right? We talk about drugs, we talk about, safety, we talk about stranger danger, but really, how many of us really think about, I really need to have a serious conversation with my kid about social media? Probably very few of us. I know I wasn't thinking about it. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it really is a conversation that needs to happen. It really is. When you think about, all the talks that we need to have with our kids, we talk about sex, we talk about drugs, we talk about drunk driving. Social media is not up there. I'm here to say tonight that it is my contention that conversation about the digital world, more important than social media and how it's being used and what the ramifications of it, is important for us to have with our children. It should be right up there with one of the talks that we're having with our kids. And tonight, I'm going to show you why that's important. Because again, they're migrating into a world that we're just kind of stumbling around, but they live in it. They swim in it, they eat it, they live it. So how do we do that? It's important to remember that as parents, as teachers, as community members, as church members, we are the first line of defense. Not their peers, right? Not what Facebook says, right? Facebook says, yes, we don't allow anyone under the age of 13, right? 78% of parents polled tells us that they've actually created a Facebook page for their kids under the age of 13. So there are plenty of 13-year-olds on Facebook when there shouldn't be any, right? So really, we are the line of defense for our children when it comes to this social media world that they're starting to migrate in. So it's important for us to know that. So when we think about social media, right, it's important for us to understand that it is a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or what I like to call a fine line that we're walking. And why is that? Because on one hand, our children need social media. They live in a digital world. I can tell you right now, in the work that I do, that I see the rise of the digital world, of the global market. It's all going to be digital. Within the next couple of decades, right, nothing is going to be done without technology. Whether it's somebody hiring us, whether it's the way our kids go to school, you have the one-on-one initiative here in this school. Every school is starting to transform themselves into where the content of what the children are studying is really going to be online. So really, they're going to be swimming in a world that is digitized. So you need to think about two things when you think about social media when it comes to your kids. Your kids are creating their personal brand online as we speak. When they have their Facebook page, when they have their Tumblr account, when they have their YouTube account, whatnot, what they create right now is their own personal branding, right? In every college admissions, whether it's a job, whether it's an internship, people are now looking at the social media footprint in order to gauge whether or not these children are what they're looking for. They're looking at the way they think, they're looking at what they're posting, they're looking at who they congregate with, they're looking at who they're connected with in order for them to have, an opportunity to gauge these individuals. The social media network also allows your kids to connect with like-minded individuals, mentors, people that can share the similar interests and aspirations and help them get to their strategic goals. So it's important for them to have that. So if you take your child completely and disconnect them from social media, you're doing them a disservice in the 21st century. We can't afford not to have them there, right? But more importantly, they need to understand also what exactly that means, right? So every piece of information that they put on social media, here's the honest truth. Anything that you put online is a permanent ink. Google does not forget, right? There are a couple of things when the internet was first starting, and I didn't realize, too bad it wasn't too bad, but I didn't realize that Google didn't forget. I made a couple of statements here and there and whatnot. And then years later, I'm like, oh my God, this thing is still online, right? When I was about to marry my wife, right, I went to visit her parents, and I'm talking to my father-in-law and whatnot, and then he brings up this thing. So, I see you like Sade. I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah, I did a Google search on you. Notice that you have a very, very interesting Sade. And it was a statement I had made about Sade, I think, like maybe 5 years ago, when AOL was like a dial-up. But it never went away, right? So nowadays, it's even more so, right? So now you have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have all these guys creating terabytes of information. Every single swipe, every interaction that we do online is being recorded. I don't have to tell you the NSA is peeking into your own personal emails, right? We all heard that. So no one overlooks anything nowadays. So when hiring managers, people, admissions, college recruiters, anyone who's looking at, your child's profile or even our own profile, when looking at two similar applicants, they're going to look at things like social media and their digital footprint in order to make decisions. Because why? We're moving into the era of people looking at how people think, how they're connected, and how interactive they are online. So obviously, we can't disconnect our kids from the social media channels that they're in. But what we need to do is really start getting aware of some of the issues that are out there because of social media. So there's 3 most growing disturbing trends happening with children nowadays with social media. And I think each of you, if you're listening to the news, if you're watching the news, if you're reading newspapers, you can tell what these are, right? Sexting is obviously becoming an epidemic and with our kids because they think it's something, it's fun, it's, I'm just sending it to my boyfriend, I'm sending it to my friend, or, I'm just flashing or whatever, and they don't think about, if you remember when you were 14 or 12, one minute you're friends with someone and the next minute you're like, you're my sworn enemy, right? And how do I get back at you? And then the next day you guys are friends again, but oops, oh, by the way, I forgot I emailed your picture to all 30 of my friends when we were mad at each other, right? So the kids don't realize the ramification of what they're doing sometimes when they're putting those pictures out there. Cyberbullying is a growing epidemic, as you all know. Now kids are moving away from just the physical walls of the classrooms to bully each other, and now they're texting or they're putting things on Facebook or Tumblr or some of the places that we're going to talk about tonight. And then finally, the biggest one and the scariest one, obviously, are child predators are out there. They're looking for personal information, and sometimes they're luring kids into these conversations because that they can glean from personal information that the kids are putting out. So it's important for us to understand what these 3 elements are. So here's some shocking statistics about sexting. Here's the one thing that you need to understand about sexting. And I know you guys have heard this recently. Children who are passing information or pictures of nude or semi-nude children, they can be charged as a federal crime. It can be charged as a federal crime for possession of child pornography. It happened recently, I believe, I forget which state. Same situation, young girl sent her picture to a boyfriend, they broke up, he decided to pass on the picture to other friends and whatnot, and the federal government came in and charged him with federal passing on child pornography because the child was underage. So when your kids think that they're just passing on, oh, here's a picture of my ex-girlfriend, we're not together anymore, or I'm upset at her, if it gets out there, it can lead to some serious federal charges issues. So you got to think about that as parents. The other thing is, look at the numbers, the disparity in numbers of who's sexting in terms of gender. You would normally think, under our assumption, that boys would be the ones doing that. 53% of girls are sexting their pictures, as opposed to 47% of boys. Those numbers are alarming when you think that girls, you can understand perhaps girls are looking for, they're trying to, do things with their boyfriends, or they're trying to impress a guy, or they're trying, under peer pressure, they're doing something that the other girls are saying they're doing and they're not doing. So there's a lot of pressure for these girls and these kids to actually comply with what their peers are doing. And then 48% of teens have received a sexually suggestive message, either from peers of themselves or from adults. Those are some high numbers. Those are alarming numbers, folks. We really need to be thinking about that when we think about, what are these kids getting on their phones, and as well as, their social media that they're going on to. Cyberbullying, of course, look at the numbers. Studies have shown that nearly 42% of kids have been bullied in some form of fashion through cyberbullying. That's a high number, right? Whether it's just a simple word or phrases, or someone constantly bullying children online, that's something that we need to think about. If your child, if they're looking at their phone, or every time they go on their PC, you see their mood shifting, right? All of a sudden they're sullen, they don't want to talk, they're not telling you what's going on. You may want to be looking online what exactly is going on with, your child. And then finally, of course, predators, right? Research has shown that 82% of online sex crime against minors begin with the offender using the child's social networking site to gain information. So, I'm going to ask right now, through a show of hands, how many of you know that your child has, say, a Facebook page? How many of you have checked what's on the Facebook page? Very few hands. Very few hands. Okay. So you need to know constantly what kind of information your child is putting out there. Because people are scrolling on those pages. They are looking for information. Every tidbit of information helps. You know, whether it's a birthday, it's a whatever, they look for that kind of information. They scrape it and they put those pieces together. So it's important that you understand what's on that. Your child's information is out there, and making sure that you have a discussion with them about what's appropriate to be out there and what should not be out there. All right, so before I go any further, let's talk about cell phones. How many of you, your child has a cell phone? Pretty much, mostly of you. How many of you, the child has a smartphone? Okay, so cell phones, especially smartphones, is nothing more than a mini computer. Okay, so your child can take that cell phone, they can go online, and download apps, they can do a lot of stuff that are away from your eyes, right? So if you're at home and the computer or the laptop is in a central location, or it's in a room and you can go in the room and see what they're doing, or you can monitor what they're doing online, that's a whole different story. The cell phone, they can be away from you, right? And pretty much get online just like you know, a regular computer. How many of you, through a show of hand, actually take your child's cell phone and see what kind of website they visited? Okay, good. Wonderful. That's good. How many of you look at the deleted cache? Ah, okay, doesn't she? Okay, good. Good. Yeah, right? Because they delete, right? They delete, right? And how many of you are aware of Google Chrome's incognito window? No? Okay, right? Google Chrome, which is a platform that they can go online, is an incognito window that they can actually launch, and it doesn't keep a list of history of where they went, right? Okay, so see, those little tricks, you know, our kids know about this and we don't know about this. So they can hide their traces, but there's ways for us as parents to start knowing what our kids are doing. And I'm going to share some of this with you tonight. So, here's some final statistics as I give the news. Here's something I want you to keep in mind. Only 20% of parents say they know how to find out what their kids are doing online, and 72% of you say they throw up their hands and meeting defeat by modern technology. So a lot of you are saying, look, you know, my kid is playing with this Xbox, or they're playing with the cell phone, or they're playing with the iPad. I really don't know about those things. Well, I'm not saying for you to become Steve Jobs tomorrow, but you need to know how it works, right? You need to know how it works. And there are going to be ways for you to find out. Here's another thing. 58% of tweens say they know how to hide what they do from their parents, and this number jumps to 65% for teens and 80% for young adults. The young adults are scary. The stuff they know how to do blows my mind.